Good afternoon, Mr. Gallo. How you doing?
All right.
Good. Mr. Gallo, my name is Cheryl Renatz. I'll be reading some information into the record, ask you to verify it, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wise because your case has been assigned to him today. Mr. Gallo, you're here before the pardon board. You're seeking a clemency, asking for a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in Evangeline Parish in July of 1995 for second-degree murder, simple burglary, and theft over $500, and you are currently serving a life sentence. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, would you answer Mr. Wise, please?
Yes, sir, Ms. Galloway. I went over your case real thorough, but I want you to tell the board a little brief, some things that happened there. We're not here today to retry this case again. We're here to see what you've done since you've been incarcerated. The case has already been to court and it's done been filed, and here's where we at right now. Unless you have any other things you're doing in court with it. Are you doing anything in court with this case right now?
I'm dealing with the 10-2. I have it pending in court right now.
Yes, pending in court right now.
Yes, sir.
All right. The thing I want to ask you is just give this board a little brief thing of what happened during that time. Real brief.
You're talking about the crime itself?
Yeah, the crime itself.
I went to Mr. Tremie's house on the 6th of October. I was supposed to take him to a art and craft festival because he was an antique dealer. And when I walk in the house, I found him dead on the floor. I panicked and I left the house and I didn't report it.
How did they know you were there?
Left my handprint on the chair that was capsized next to his body. I put my hand on the chair to lift it up, to lift myself up, and they found my handprint on the chair. And they
How long have
say
you been incarcerated?
28 years.
You've been 28 years. You've been at LSP the whole time, or was you at Evangeline for a while?
1 year in Evangeline Parish and 27 in Anglo.
During this time, how long you been a trustee?
I think I made trustee in 2004 or 2005, something like that.
All right. When you first found this guy dead, did you leave right then and go call the police, or did you leave and stayed hid out?
I left and went to my house in the hope that they didn't know that I was there. I panicked, sir.
Okay. All right. That's what I read. And I think everybody else has the same thing we read. All right. So you've had one disciplinary write-up since you've been incarcerated. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What are some of the programs you've been taking along the way?
I took anger management. I took 100 hours. I took victim awareness. And I think I took all the programs that was available to me. Excuse me 1 second.
Okay, well, we have a copy of some of the programs you've had. What is your job that you're doing now at LSP?
Right now, I work for Prison Enterprise at tractor repair. I work on tractors and implements, bush hogs and implement hay rakes and hay builders and stuff like that.
How long have you been working at that job?
I left the carpenter crew in 2015, I think, or 14, and I've been at tractor repair ever since.
All right. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Roche, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Just one, Madam Chairman. Mr. Gallo, how are you?
I'm all right, sir.
Good. I read some of your past history, Mr. Gallo, and looks like you, before you were incarcerated this time, you had been on supervision 2 or 3 times, and each time you were on supervision, it was revoked, I think in 91, 92, and 95. Is that about right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me exactly why you couldn't follow the rules and regulations of your supervision.
I was following the rules and regulations, sir. I just couldn't pay. I was violated because I couldn't pay.
All 3 times?
Yes, to my knowledge, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Warden Falgout, is there anything you can add?
Just the fact that, yes, he's been in tractor repair since April of 15. Has done an excellent job there, keeping that, the equipment going for PE. Again, 1 DB report in as many 26 years. That kind of speaks for itself. With this program, we really don't have anything else to add.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Mr. Gallo, is there a statement you'd like to make to the board before we vote?
Well, all I'd like to say is that I'm very truly sorry for what happened, because Mr. Ray was a real friend of mine, and when I didn't have work or nothing, he would always provide me with work. I did carpentry work for him, and I would hope that the board would show me mercy.
Okay. I don't know that we've mentioned, but you need to be aware that there's a pretty good amount of opposition to your favorable consideration today, and that comes from law enforcement and the prosecutor's office, as well as the victim's family. You need to be aware of that. Is the panel prepared to vote, Mr. Wise?
Yes, I'm the offense. Your arrest date was in 94. Is that correct? How long have you been incarcerated, you said?
Since 94, sir.
But how long was that total? You told me something different a while ago.
28. I did 1 year in the parish and 27 up here.
Okay. All right. That's what I want to make sure of, because you, from the offense, from the time you were arrested, you didn't make bond. You stayed incarcerated. And so anyway,
yes.
All right. At this time, I'm going to be voting. I'm going to vote to grant to a commutation 99 years with parole eligible after 30 years.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Roche?
Madam Chairman, my vote is the same.
Mr. Marabella? Oops, you're on mute.
Mr. Gallo, your record pretty much speaks for itself. Great comments by the warden on what you've done, your disciplinary history. My vote today would be to grant with immediate parole eligibility. I don't have any objection to, certainly don't want to hold you up. So my vote would be to commute to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. That would be my vote.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
Right. Mr. Gallo, likewise, I'm impressed by the fact that you only had 1 write-up, and that was in 1999. Your institutional record is good. You have a low risk assessment. And my vote today is to recommend commutation to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility.
All right. And I too, Mr. Gallo, am impressed with your record. Excellent record. My vote today would be to commute your sentence to 99 years and that you be immediately parole eligible as well. So you've received a unanimous vote for the commutation of your sentence to 99 years, majority vote to make you immediate parole eligible. So that's the recommendation we'll make on your behalf to Governor Edwards. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And they granted, and that must have been the fastest commutation hearing that we have ever seen. I mean, it's actually quite confusing as to why it went so fast. And I guess it's because they had an agenda to commute. Now, he's part of the governor's 56. Maybe you've heard me say this already. The governor pardoned or commuted 56 inmates in the last 3 months that he was in office before he left out. And we are doing a series on it. The goal is to cover every single one of these commutation / parole hearings. There's a playlist below if you want to check them out. Okay, the big cat in the room. I couldn't help myself. I'm in that mood. I don't know. I just Jim Wise. I can't. Maybe his complete, the idea that he was the longest serving board member ever, that he went like somehow made it through both sides of the aisle. I mean, I guess Miss Renats is catching up, but Miss Renats at least is good at her job. Jim Wise. I mean, and then the whole idea that he never found a way to solve his internet problems, it just irks me. But I don't know. Do you find it disrespectful? You know, I've stayed away from doing this kind of stuff, but I couldn't help it. I hope I made some of you laugh. Now this, you know, and I was hoping to get some Miss Jackson action, some Mr. Roche action. Nothing. They're just like, oh well, Grant. Now we're about to go fast forward to the present day, or the present year, or at least more present time. We're going to 2024, October 2nd, to watch his parole hearing. And it's not a shoo-in. We have been seeing these parole hearings when typically, if it's the same governor, a commutation is going to lead to parole unless something significant happens, like a major write-up or opposition that shows up out of nowhere that has influence. In this case, different governor, there's no shoo-in, but I just, you know, we do have the appeal here as well. And we can see if his story remains the same in his upcoming parole hearing. But I'll go through it real quick because it's not big. But the idea that he insists on his innocence all these years later, it's always something that blows my mind. We actually have a playlist on that, which is wrongfully convicted playlist. And you can see different cases there where those who show up all these years later against their best interest, because they know it's not a smart thing to do, say, I was innocent. I didn't do the crime. And I think you just have to pick to believe him or not. And I mean, I believe him, I think, because why would you say it? But between the hours of 6 p.m. October 7, 1994 and 3 a.m. on October 8, 1994, the parish of and blah, blah, the victim, Ray Tremy, was stabbed to death in his home. There were no eyewitnesses to the murder, but police found the fingerprints of the defendant, Donald Gallo, at the murder scene. Gallo at first told police he had not been to his house since October 6, 1994. He subsequently admitted to having found Tremy dead at his house, but denied having killed him. Police arrested the defendant based on fingerprints. Gallo's inconsistent statements and the testimony of a couple of witnesses alleged statements of Gallo. On December 13, 1994, the defendant was charged with bill information 1 count of second-degree murder. On December 6, 1994, the defendant was arraigned and pled not guilty. The defendant was tried by a jury in 1995 and convicted as charged. On July 12, 1995, the defendant was sentenced to life imprisonment, hard labor without probation, blah, 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 sentence. And now, again, remember, we're going to go and watch the parole hearing soon. Let me see what facts do they have to convict him, because it is completely. We know, like, he was the dealer. Like, of course he's. You know, his biggest mistake was even talking to the police. He just should have said an attorney. That's all he had to say was attorney, and he might not be in the situation. Now, witnesses Angela, Jack, and Elva indicated that Gallo had 4 rocks of Pepsi when they first saw him Saturday night. Jack testified that the defendant handed her $140 for more Pepsi during the course of the evening. Before estimating the defendant went through approximately $450. Why is this relevant? However, why is this relevant? What are they? The prosecution also emphasized, because they think he did robbery. I see. Cash. Okay, I see. It was not clear that Tremy was even robbed. Additionally, when the corpse was discovered, police found $525 cash in the pants pocket. Wow, that's actually huge for him. And you might say, I mean, they found $525 in his pocket. The wristwatch had not been taken either. The state argued that the corpse was lying with the money in the rear pocket nearest the floor. Thus, it was explainable that money was left with the body. So the state's saying no, it was in his back pocket. He didn't find it. The defendant's case consisted of 2 joint stipulations. He received $150 from attorney Bill Sandos on October 5th, the Wednesday before the murder, and $116 a weekly workers' compensation check on the same day. There was no testimony indicating Gallo had an unusual amount of money when he was arrested. The prosecution also emphasized the defendant's inconsistent accounts of his whereabouts in the weekend of the murder. On October 9th, he told the police that he had not seen Tremy all during the weekend. On October 10th, he told them that he had not seen Tremy on October 6th, the Thursday before the murder. Finally, on October 27th, he stated that he had walked into Tremy's house and found the corpse lying on the floor with lots of blood. The defense argued that the variation stemmed from simple fear of being linked to a heinous crime. Ultimately, the state's case rested upon 2 main points: the evidence that the defendant was in Tremy's house and contacted Tremy's blood during or after the murder, and the possession of an unusual amount of cash within the short period of time of the murder. But why wouldn't he have cash? Okay, anyways, and the rule with circumstantial evidence is assuming the very fact to be proved that the evidence tends to prove it. In order to convict, it must exclude every reasonable hypothesis of innocence. Although no direct evidence clearly established that Gallo killed Tremy or that he robbed Tremy, we find that there is no reasonable hypothesis of innocence. I mean, if you take his story that he was going there to do a job and he knew him, then why not? As the prosecutor pointed out during the closing arguments, police had to break into Tremy's house because it was locked. Gallo never explained how he'd gotten into the house or why he would have locked it behind him after leaving the corpse. Okay, that's interesting. Thus, while the hypothesis of innocence exists, we find it does not accord to the reason of common experience, therefore assignment of error. You know, defendant contends at trial that the court erred in admitting the evidence of police notes of oral statements made by the defendants to police officers on October 9-10, 1994. Each of these statements, Gallo denied involvement in the murder. He twice denied seeing the victim at all during the weekend of the murder. Finally, October 27th, he stated that he'd walked into the victim's home. His current arguments, like his trial objections, are based upon discovery rules. The defendant filed his pretrial discovery in March 1995. State responded on April 21st. Gallo argues that although the prosecution provided just to the defense oral statements, including some not used at trial, blah, 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 blah. Now they're just doing like technical motions. You know what's interesting about this is, so in the next hearing that we're about to watch, the parole project shows up, right? He wasn't here at this commutation hearing, but Randy Meyer goes on to say how he knows him for years, which he probably does, like knew him because Randy was in Angola with him. But why wasn't he here at this commutation hearing? And then he has 2 attorneys, and both attorneys speak. And I fast forwarded because I already edited it before doing this unpacking, and I fast forwarded their statements. And you'll have to let me know what you think about me fast forwarding. I don't do it to be disrespectful. It's just that this hearing itself is only like 25 minutes long. Then it's my unpacking, and if I keep their statements in, it makes the hearing about 15 minutes longer, and it's just long and redundant. But nowhere did they mention kind of like facts of the case proving his innocence. They just didn't. I would have mentioned the money because they keep saying you robbed him. You robbed him. They kept saying you owed him money. They said that he owed you money, but yet he's left with $500 and a watch. Which in my the only argument there is to say that he killed the man because he was owed money, but didn't take the $500, which is a ton of money in the 90s. And the watch. And it's just not the type of murder that someone does when they're owed money. To get stabbed 5-6 times, that's a crime of passion. So they confirmed it. Also, it was not a unanimous jury. I don't know what this is. It wasn't unanimous. I think it was 10-2. But anyways, I'll let's jump into the hearing and see how it goes.
Today we have for parole consideration Donald Gallo, DOC number 126280, who's a second felony offender who was convicted of second-degree murder and simple burglary and theft. And on March 17th, 86, and on July 21st, 95, was sentenced to serve life without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence, and 5 years hard labor in Evangeline Parish. Your parole eligibility date was August 1st, 21. Your good time date, May 2nd, 31. And your full term date is October 26th, 69. Does that information sound correct to you, Mr. Gallo?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, you get the first question. Tell us why you're incarcerated, what you did to get there, and why do you think you should be granted parole on that charge?
Well, I met Mr. Tremie in 1984 through a friend named Charles Wilson. He was doing carpentry work on Mr. Tremie's rent houses. I wasn't working at the time. He asked me if I could help him build an extra room on one of Mr. Tremie's house, and I agreed to it. He introduced me to Mr. Tremie, and Mr. Tremie gave me the opportunity to show him what I knew how to do. So I helped him build the room. Mr. Tremie came by and inspected it, and complimented Charles and me on a job well done. I had the privilege of knowing Mr. Tremie for 9.5 years. On October 6th, 1994, I went to Mr. Tremie's house to pick up $50. Mr. Tremie told me that he would need me to come that Sunday morning early enough to bring him to a Hessler, to a sale. I went to Mr. Tremie's house that Sunday morning and discovered his body on the kitchen floor. I panicked, I was overcome with fear, and I ran. And I was scared because I had drugs on me. I had planned to drop the drugs off on the way to Hessler, to a person on the way to Hessler. Mr. Tremie didn't know nothing about my drug dealing. I was selling crack cocaine and marijuana. And I'm sorry for the things that I did. I know that I hurt a lot of people by selling drugs and stuff. Because I know that the people that I heard, some of them was young women with children. And I was taking the food out of them kids' mouth and wasn't even thinking about it. When I come to Angola, and I was sentenced to, I was convicted of second-degree murder in 95 in Santa Angola, August 28th of that same year. When I came to Angola, I realized that I needed to do something with myself. So I enrolled in school and started participating in programs. The program of living in balance and victim awareness really hit me hard. Because before that, I would take those programs when I was on the street. All I was worried about was myself, me. And my motto was get my money. And when I come to Angola and take those programs, it helped me to, it opened my eyes. It helped me to understand that what I was doing was wrong, that I was hurting people by selling drugs to them. If I could see those people today, I would tell them how sorry I am and how wrong I was and how sorry I am for the pain and the heartache that I caused them and their family and the community. And I would beg for their forgiveness. And I apologize to everybody that I may have hurted in that community, that I know I've hurted in the community. I apologize to the police enforcement agency in that community and everybody else that I've caused harm to. And I pray that I could find a mercy today, and y'all would extend to me the opportunity to prove to y'all that I'm no longer the threat that I used to be. I hope that the people can see that I'm not the same person that came here in 30 years ago. I hope they could see me for the person I am today. And I would pray that they would show me mercy and allow me the opportunity to go back and show them that I can be a productive member of society.
Thank you. All right, Warden, do you have anything you can tell us about his behavior there?
Yes, sir. He's a Class A trustee. He has a very impressive disciplinary record. He's received 1 disciplinary report since being incarcerated here. He's completed anger management, substance abuse, thank you for change, 100 hours, victim awareness. He received a GED in 2022, and he's currently in a program called Thinking to Win. Thank you.
All right. Today we have several people in support. We'll start with Mr. Kerry Mars from the Parole Project.
Good morning, and thank you for letting me speak on behalf of Mr. Gallo. I've known Mr. Gallo a number of years, more than a couple of decades. And I can tell you that what Mr. Gallo has told you today is very consistent with Mr. Gallo has always said. And it's easy for someone, I think, to come to this board and say that, take responsibility for something that they didn't do to get this board's approval. It's very difficult to come before this board to say what Mr. Gallo has said today, knowing what the requirements are generally for grant. He admitted to you that he was a drug dealer and that he had to change his life. And he has done that. And I know that personally because I know Mr. Gallo. I can tell you the Parole Project would be happy to have Mr. Gallo. He would be a long-term client of Parole Project. We know that he is very suitable for employment. Our employment enhancement team will work with him to make sure he's gainfully employed. We will provide him the mentorship and the programming that he needs after 30 years of incarceration to relearn the world, to take it step by step in the process of reintegrating himself back into society. He will be a contributing member of society should this board release him. I believe Mr. Gallo. I have always believed Mr. Gallo. I know that that's of no moment here. This board has to decide whether Mr. Gallo is fit to return to society. I just think that he has done something that is very difficult here and has done what his conscience has told him to do. So I would just ask this board to consider Mr. Gallo's stellar record, his programming, his disciplinary record, his trustee status for the last 20 years, the things that he has contributed to his community, the things that he can contribute to the community upon release, and knowing that he has our support, and ask this board to grant him his parole today.
Thank you. All right. We have several people in support but not wishing to speak. We have Taylor Juice, a parole reentry from the Parole Reentry Clinic. We have Matia Wright from the Parole Reentry Clinic. And we have Adrian Hutchinson, an attorney in favor but not to speak. And we have Mr. Robert Lancaster, his attorney with the LSU Law and Parole Project, to speak. So go ahead, Mr. Lancaster.
The CTRP with the hope of looking like a saint in front of this honorable committee. He completed the CTRP because he wanted to become an honest, noble man that walks in the light of God. Mr. Gallo has an unwavering faith that has guided him through his sentence here. He has committed to breaking bad habits such as smoking and dipping to live a life that honors God. Mr. Gallo was baptized in 2022 after his clemency hearing, finding support among the other men of the same faith as him here in LSP. Relationships that will continue outside of LSP and that will positively impact his community. Mr. Gallo overcame his education gap when he came to LSP with a 5th grade education by completing his GED while he was incarcerated. Mr. Gallo has received has received notable remarks from figures within the DOC, notably Warden Falgu, who said that Mr. Gallo's record spoke for itself. And Mrs. Renatza, who is on this committee today, at his clemency hearing said that she was impressed by his record. Mr. Gallo has a low tiger way that will not impede on public safety at his current age. Mr. Gallo prays that this committee considers his record and grant him the opportunity to live outside of the gates of parole so he can reflect the work that
He's had one write-up in 30 years. He's been a Class A trustee for 20 years. and he has resided in Camp F, the trustee camp, for 12 years. And Mr. Gallo understands that this is not the platform to advocate for his innocence. However, juries typically do not agree with innocent stories. But Mr. Gallo was convicted on a non-unanimous jury. And further, this board, a discretionary release today will provide greater protection to society rather than an automatic release when Mr. Gallo is in his 70s. With the parole project, he will have employment and housing. The statistics have shown that with those coupled together, he is not likely to offend outside of LSP. But regardless of that, board, Mr. Gallo understood that his life was to be spent here. Yet, as you can see, Mr. Gallo is not the man that came into this prison. He realizes that this is not about him. He has become a man of faith, a man of work, and a man of purpose. Mr. Gallo prays that this committee allows him to serve the remainder of his sentence on parole with any and all restrictions and conditions that this honorable committee deems appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's all the people we had wanting to speak. We do have, we don't have anyone here in person, opposition, but we do have opposition documented in the free parole and the clemency investigation. The judges opposed, the district attorneys opposed, and the sheriff and Evangeline Parish is strongly opposed. The victim's family is still opposed. So I've been assigned the case and I'll ask the first questions. And basically I need to start with just a brief summary. You were found guilty by jury of second-degree murder on 7/12/95 and sentenced to life without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence. On December 19, 2023, Governor Edwards commuted that life sentence to 75 years with immediate parole eligibility, and you served approximately 30 years on that sentence. On October 9th, 1984, police were flagged down to check on Mr. Joseph Ray Treme. Officers found Mr. Treme had been stabbed several times in his neck, his chest, and other parts of his body, and that his throat had been cut. After collection and analysis of handprints, footprints, and other forensic evidence, along with interviews of several potential witnesses, Donald Gallo was arrested and booked into the jail for armed robbery and first-degree murder. Mr. Gallo, tell us a little bit more about what happened that day. I caught what you said in the beginning. You saying you found the body and that was the first time you saw it, he was dead already?
Yes, sir. I went to his house that Thursday, October 6th, to pick up $50. And he told me he needed me to come by early Sunday morning to drive him to an antique show in Hessler. He said he always wanted to go to the shows or sales early, because he said the early birds always get the good stuff. So I went to his house that Sunday morning early and found him on the floor, found him dead on his kitchen floor.
And then what did you do?
I panicked. Fear came over me, and I knew I had the drugs on me, so I ran. I got away from there.
And you never called the cops or anybody, even after you got rid of drugs or anything?
No, sir. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, sir. I was panicked.
So you find the body, you run because you have drugs. Even after you get rid of the drugs, you still don't call the police. How did you waited out until the police came to see you?
Well, they didn't come see me till a few days later. I don't know. They just come and question me about it. Once they questioned me about it, I told them that I went to his house that Thursday to borrow some money, and that I went back that Sunday and found him dead, and I just was too scared to report it.
All right. That's all the questions I have. How about Ms. Stapleton, you have any?
Yeah, I was just gonna add to what Mr. Bauer was saying. I was reading another report here that it says that it appeared to be a robbery, that there were witnesses 2 days before the murder that said that you forced Mr. Gallo to loan you some money. And that In doing so, you grabbed him and inflicted severe pain on him until he complied with the request. And so that may be what brought the police to your house. Okay? You remember that incident?
I don't remember that incident, Miss Templeton, Miss
Did
Stapleton.
you ever ask him to loan you some money?
No, ma'am. I went to his house that Thursday to pick up money. He knew I was coming to get some money that Thursday.
What were you getting money for?
Some job I did for him.
Oh, so he was paying you then?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's probably what brought him to your house, because there were some witnesses that say that there was a conflict between the two of y'all, and that you inflicted pain on him, so he gave you some money. So
That's something I never had to do, Miss Stapleton. Mr. Reed was the type of person that would give you the shirt off his back. I've known Mr. Reed for 9.5 years, and me and Mr. Reed never had no kind of confrontation with each other, no kind of dispute or nothing.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Renat,
I have no
that's
question.
it. Ms. Davis? That's it. You have any questions, Ms. Renat?
No.
All right, we're ready to vote, and I'm assign your case, so I'll cast the first vote. Mr. Gallo, the jury found you guilty. Whether you were there or not, we're not here to determine that, but the jury did find you guilty. I'm gonna have to vote to deny parole based on the strong law enforcement opposition and the opposition from the victim's family. Stapleton?
And I concur with Mr. Ballrock for the same reasons.
Ms. Renata?
Mr. Gallo, I sat on, I was participating in your pardon hearing in 2021, and I stand by that decision. I voted for you then. I'm voting to grant your parole today. I would add, for the same reasons, and that was, excellent conduct record. At that time, you also had a favorable recommendation by the warden. You still maintain a low risk score. The only, if that were successful, the only recommendation I would have would be that prior to release, you do complete the program recommended by Warden Vermeer.
All right, Mr. Gallo, today your parole has been denied, and this will conclude our business at Louisiana State Penitentiary at 11:54 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
And there you have it. They denied. And it's interesting. Again, think about the way the commutation hearing went through with not an easy board. Jim Wise, Mr. O'Shea, Miss Jackson, and he got commuted in like 10 minutes flat. Then you fast forward and it's like a flat deny. And I don't know. I'm leaning towards innocent. I just don't. I'm trying to wrap my mind around why he would say, I'm going to stick with the fact that I didn't kill him. I'm going to just stick it through, even though I know that it's not going to help me. And then he takes his strategy, which to me just seemed, I guess he figured, look, and maybe the strategy is sound. And you think about it, it's like, I'm not just going to say I'm innocent, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say I was a bad guy. I was a dealer. I had all these fellas, because he did have a long where he was like, arrested 3 times, 3 failed. So he wanted to go through to say that. And so he takes that approach. They focus like all the energy on that. And then you would almost not remember that, hey, there's like this horrible murder here. And I just don't know why someone would take that approach if they weren't truly innocent. But what's interesting too is that they don't really bring it up. They don't like say, like the parole board doesn't say you need to take accountability for your crime, or you're guilty, and it's just more like, we deny you. I don't know. The whole thing seems like a weird process to me. And why do I think he's innocent? Look, it's just, I guess you have to take a guess. But to me, I like the implicating factors that they brought up just don't mean anything to me. Like, why didn't you call the police? It's like, I mean, I totally understand why he wouldn't call the police. He's like a 3-time felon. He's been locked up how many times? Like calling the police is the last thing you would do in that situation. But you know, the biggest mistake was talking to the police, not getting an attorney. You would think after all those times of being your horrible record that you would learn by then. Just learn, like, don't talk to the cops, because that's where. But you know, it's almost like they went straight to him, and there were some stories that came out in this hearing that we hadn't heard before, that maybe there were eyewitnesses, that he had hurt someone. But I wonder if that information is not so accurate, because he seemed to like just, I don't know. I throw my hands in the air. It's and then you can't take for the idea that he has, what did they say, one write-up in 30 years? And I've seen these parole hearings on Man Do Too, second channel, cover different states, and they don't do that. And either it's like you're saying that somehow Angola is an easier prison not to have write-ups in, which I don't buy for a second. Angola was a notorious prison until I think somewhat recently. But in these other states, I mean, they get write-ups like what you'd expect. You kind of think people get a lot of write-ups, and here he is with one write-up. He's doing great. He even claims to be innocent. It's all these years later, and they're just like, no. I mean, Louisiana has become tough again on crime under this new administration, but I don't know how I feel about it. But anyways, we're this specific case, I just don't. Also, I thought was interesting, right? Randy Meyer shows up. I'm his best. You know, I know him all so well, but where were you where were any of them when it came to this commutation hearing? So it's like they all jumped on the bandwagon because it's money. He's a client. Remember, if he gets parole to the parole project, that's, you know, I don't know what the exact dollar is per week or per month that Randy Meyer would get, but that's how he makes his money. Anyways, I have nothing else to add. We may see him again. I think it's in 5 years. He'll be able to apply again under these. Sir Richard gave me all the documents. I need to go over it in more detail, but he didn't only give me the documents, he highlighted it. So because there are a lot of new laws around when you can come up for parole. It's quite complex, actually. But on the note of Sir Richard, he's become very ill at the time of me doing this recording, October 31st, 2024. He's been bedridden. I'm not even sure if I'm messaging him or if it's his wife that's messaging me back. I'm getting one word responses, and he's a tough man. I mean, he had a serious surgery for cancer just a few months ago, and he was back at his desk and working pretty much instantly before his surgery. Wound was even healing, and he was responsive then. So I'm scared. Say a prayer, light a candle, send positive energy, whatever it might be. Please do that for our dear Sir Richard. And with that, I'll let you go.
How did they know you were there?
Left my handprint on the chair that was capsized next to his body. I put my hand on the chair to lift it up, to lift myself up, and they found my handprint on the chair.